restructured central office to have a K-12 supervision, meaning we're going to work better between elementary, middle, and high school as students transition through the grades. So I have 3 executive directors of student achievement that guide and oversee that. And one of the things that's important with that process is the school improvement process. In fact, we just hit a national publication on an article that we just published. It was just yesterday through the ASCD magazine subscription journal and through the district administration, which is going to hit over 300,000 people across the nation on our school improvement process. You've been part of that process when you at you were there.
Right.
And so as we go through, it's a unique system of accountability.
Right.
It's tied to the feeder track model, but what it is it's a way to go into the schools and really see what's going on with instruction for the students. So we literally, what we'll do is we go through every classroom in a school, monitoring instruction to provide suggestions and feedback. What are some of our data sets that we've seen in achievement from that? Well, we do track it. Ms. Fatmi Faraj is in charge. So we have a rubric, and what we do is we track how well it's going in the school. But we have other data points like our NWEA tests that all students take, which measures growth. We just presented before the board and showed that we are way above national averages with the growth that our students are making in the progress. So that kind of goes with that model. What is it you're doing in the school instructionally, and then how are students achieving? We also just this past year had one of our highest ever graduation rates of all time in Dearborn schools at 93%. So those are things. When you talk K-12 and the restructuring, when students are going to be successful at high school, and really it's beyond. I mean, I think we just discussed this with our partnership with the city. You know, the specific data really comes from the police department.
Sure.
You know, we're not naive to think that there's no drug issues at all, but at the same token, you know, from the information and perceptions out there that it's this widespread of potentially, you know, drugs in the school all the time. I don't see that. I'm in the schools all the time.
Okay.
Now, having said that, I can't give you specific data, and I think what we would have to do is really look at, you know, the data from the chief. But again, some of those students that he may have are not necessarily from our school. Having said that, I think we need to be proactive. Meaning, what can we do? So what we're looking at doing is coming up with a program where we maybe find some grant funding. We have partnered with Access and other groups on drug prevention programs. Ms. Deneen Charles has headed that up. But we actually have a meeting set up to try to partner with the chief and the police and to look at the data. I would tell you, though, when you do look at the data, and the chief has said this, when you look at his data that he has on, you know, whether it be arrests in the community or drugs or anything like that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's all Dearborn students, because some of the people in the community are not. So he's kind of cautioned us at looking at that. So I don't have hard numbers, you know, that I could give you on the specific problems, other than we know if we have students that get into a situation, we have a process that we go through to, you know, work with their parents and to make sure, and there's a student code of conduct.
Okay.
And we don't tolerate that kind of behavior in the schools. Well, here's the thing, if we catch, there's a student code of conduct. So anybody that gets caught or it's brought through, I mean, there's a process, a due process. You know, we don't tolerate, that's a legal activity, and we don't tolerate it, and we, you know, would go through our process, and if necessary, we also have the youth officers that are in every school. We are definitely take it seriously. I don't see it in the schools of situations that have come my way that have been reported in the schools as a widespread issue in the schools. I don't have data to say that. Now, if people's perceptions are out in the community such, like you said, then they need to report these things so that we can address it, because then we know if it's happening or not. But we definitely take it seriously. And then the second thing, I mean, I've gone to sessions with the FBI and others. I would say with that too, I would always caution people to, just with anything, to what is the reality versus the perception. So go get the hardline data, go get the data.
Sure.
Find out exactly where it is versus I heard this and this and this, because a lot of times that changes is not true. So I think we've got to really, and so what I am saying is we are looking at the data. We have a group, the City Relations Committee, that we're part of. We're going to meet with the chief. We have a few from our district that are going to meet and talk about a drug prevention program. We've also had the LAHC, that Lebanese American Heritage Committee, has done some things too with drug prevention, seminars and other things, and then access as well. So I mean, I think that in education is more of what our role is in the schools, is really, the side of what is the impact of these, and so can we enhance and improve? Yeah, absolutely. Well, first thing, if you look at our vision, students first, which we have the sign over there, and we could, so we're all about students. The reality is that the students come at an older age, whether it be 17 or 18 or 16. We have to follow state law when it comes to their credits for graduation. And so, they can only go up to a certain age taking their classes, and they can't remain in high school into their adult into the 20s. So if they don't have credits and they're at a 17 and they don't have any credits and they don't have transcripts based on state law, we can't just credit them without verifying the transcripts. And so what we've done a few things is, one is if they do have transcripts, we'll verify them and we'll be happy to accept them. If they don't, we've looked at some different programs like English Language Learner Institute, which we actually are trying to get them into a program that would give them on track for a GED, where they could still get their diploma through a GED track through our adult education department. And we did get a grant last year with that. So that is a challenging situation, but we have to follow state law when it comes to the graduation requirements for our students, including students that come from overseas. Yes, well, first let me kind of respond to your first thing. First of all, we stand for, we're at the opposite. We're saying we have to enhance. It brings additional revenue for our students, to the district, and to the economy. So relative speaking, when it may be uncomfortable to talk about boundary changes or expansion, because one could be a cost associated with, the other might be moving students to different schools. It might be a tough conversation to have, but as superintendent and as a district and as the board, it is the responsible thing to do, because in 3 to 5 years, if we don't do something, we could potentially be in a more dire straits situation. So I just want to stress that I've always stood for community input. I think every way I've operated has been that way. And I think, again, a lot of things were taken out of context from some of those reports initially. And so you're hearing from me directly. The board has only given me the direction on 3 things. So there's been no decisions other than 3 things, okay? First thing is elimination of school of choice. But that's been discussed for a long time. It kind of got to a position where it had gotten way out of what the initial intention was. The second was to study architectural designs at Dearborn High to see what we could do. And so that was, the third was to hire outside consultants. We already did one. Hire 2 other groups to really look at population trends before any decisions were made. There's been no other decisions other than those 3 things. My team is currently putting together some recommendations. Again, those recommendations will go to the board with different options. Those options will then go into the community, just as we did last year with River Oaks when we had some boundary changes from Hague and Lindbergh and River Oaks. We actually went to those schools, met, and had opportunity for community input. And so right now there isn't plans to move soccer into the middle school. It was reviewed. It was reviewed and given consideration, but at this point, they didn't feel like it could fit into the program. But I do think it gave serious consideration. We can always review it again in the future. So our more of the direction we were going in right now is more to partner with the city and whatever their expansions with soccer, or we've actually worked with local groups that and allowed them to use fields and things for the soccer program. So we've done some of that specifically at Salina with people using Etzel and other places over the last couple years. So those are other ways that we can assist. What do I feel? I didn't play soccer growing up, but my kids love soccer, so I'm all for. I think sports are important, and right now, based on the committee recommendations we've had, is that you'd have to lose one of the sporting seasons in order to gain. So we're kind of in a situation where the other ones are popular as well. So what is it that you take off the table to add? The high school, it's different. You can run a lot more of the programs, but given our budget, coaches, availability. Now there is a possibility of giving it not in a varsity program.